Good day, everybody. Zack here with RevZilla, and welcome to another episode of Daily Rider, where we learn about motorcycles as we ride. Our guest today, Kawasaki's KLX300 SM. So that's basically a 300cc dual sport bike with 17-inch wheels and rubber set up for street use. Now, true Daily Rider fans will know that my personal bike is in fact a Supermoto, so I'm keen on the category. I'm definitely excited to see how this pint-sized option stacks up. You think we can back it in, maybe? Obviously. Okie dokie, everybody. Here we go. KLX300 Supermoto. As usual, start with the engine. That is a 292cc liquid-cooled single. Pretty basic dirt bike engine. Pretty basic dirt bike structure, really. Long fork, basic frame and swing arm. The SM model has a bigger rotor and definitely better brakes than the dual sport. For those of you wishing that I was talking about the dual sport, stay tuned. I think you'll be happy with our exploration of the comparison between these two bikes later in the episode. Winky face. Other than that, yeah, pretty basic setup, very, very Supermoto style. Dirt bike seat, real flat. These are the passenger foot pegs, which are very, very rudimentary. But some rubber foot pegs on the rider's set. For a little bit of reduced vibration. Yeah, pretty basic bike. So let's fire it up and hit the road, shall we? There's no claimed horsepower number. I'll just throw that out there right now. And I bring that up because when you look at the size of the outlet of this pipe, when you can plug the engine with your pinky finger, that's always a good indication that probably not a ton of horsepower on tap. Anywho, let's hit the road, shall we? All right. So it is a 292cc engine, like I said. On the Daily Rider scales, it weighed in at 305 pounds, a 305. Pretty light, pretty small bike. And that was with a full tank, which is 2 gallons of gasoline. I just realized that I forgot to talk about the price in the intro. Normally I say that. Well, anyway, it's $6,000, which is not as small a number as people would probably have hoped when the bike came out. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the episode. The other number, of course, is seat height, which is not particularly small. That's actually a number that's it's kind of a tall seat height, 33.9 inches. When you sit on it, especially my 200-pound self, the bike compresses noticeably. So the 33 and almost 34-inch seat height doesn't translate directly to feeling particularly tall because the bike's so narrow and small. On to the ergonomics and riding position on the KLX300 SM. It is a pretty comfortable place to sit as far as the geometry of your body. You have your feet right underneath your upper leg. You're sitting very upright, not a lot of weight on your hands. Luxury isn't really the KLX300's thing. So the seat is narrow, to say the least. And yeah, it doesn't have a lot of real accommodation for riders beyond being very approachable and small. Nothing shows the bare bones nature of a Supermoto, and especially a small one quite like Freeway Travel, which we're about to jump into here. Luckily for the KLX300 SM, it seems that there is traffic here in Southern California, which I swear to God never happens. But there you go. All right, now we're going a little faster here. We're going maybe not actual freeways, but we're going 60. And I'm only making a big deal about how fast we're going because I got a lot of questions from people about this bike on the social media, basically saying, can it even go on the freeway? Can you even ride it? Will it even go, 60 miles an hour? Yeah, it will. It'll go 75 or 80 if you want it to. It's breaking a sweat by then, if I'm honest. Like, it's not strained, but it's like, it's working a little bit. The other thing that I'll say is that it is very uncompromising from a wind protection standpoint. I bet that's pretty obvious. The one nice thing about a dirt bike seat is that you can slide back, so you can sit way back on the seat, as you sometimes see people do who are new to motorcycles. I'm not sure why people do that. You ever notice that on like a scooter or like a a dual sport or something, you see people that are new riders and they sit all the way at the back of the seat. I don't know, like it feels better to them or something. Oh, sure. Anyway, you can also, you know, get your nuts on the tank, or excuse me, your groin on the tank, if you want to do a dirt bike style. The point being, you have some ergonomic options in sliding back and forth on the nice flat seat. As for fuel mileage, my fuel numbers have been around 50 with this bike. I think, especially if you were going to ride it 50, 55 miles an hour, country roads or around town or something like that, I think that you would get better gas mileage than that. But Scout's honor, that's all I can tell you is what I learned. We never catch this red light on Daily Rider. Maybe it's a sign that we should back it in. Hopefully more of that to come. Green light. Here we go. We'll give it the beans here. Second gear, wide open. Third gear, wide open. So that's the type of acceleration you can expect. A little bit better if you're less than 200 pounds. A little bit worse if you're more than 200 pounds. But the point is, it's not an especially fast motorcycle. It's just sort of, it's got a good pep in its step, and above maybe 7,000 RPM, it revs to about 10.5, but above 7,000 it sort of kicks into, it makes a little bit more power up there. But yeah, not going to tear your arms off, that's for sure. The last thing we usually talk about in this section is mirrors, and I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill or anything, but the mirrors are pretty good on this bike. I don't know, I was expecting them to be complete trash, because in part, you know, Supermoto bikes are, you know, it's sort of a hooligan outlook on motorcycling, and yeah, like sort of why do they need to be good? They don't need to be good, but yeah, they're sort of they're a good shape and surprisingly smooth, even at speed. So respect, KLX300. Okie dokie, time for the stop sign challenge, and I don't know. I feel like the KLX could do pretty well here. First one, yeah, it's pretty smooth. It's a very small bike, as I have suggested or said outright many times at this point in the episode, but it bears repeating. It feels very small, and this kind of riding around town, I think, is what it's especially good at, because it's just so kind of approachable and unintimidating, and even for an experienced rider, just sort of, I don't know, it makes you feel like you're in control, because it's just so manageable and easy to use. And 2 footless stops in the books. Yes, very good. Pretty direct clutch feel. The levers are not adjustable, basic cable clutch and stuff, but you know, this is like the rudimentary stuff sometimes is where it's where you feel most connected to the bike, and that's definitely the case with the KLX300. There we go. Stop sign number 4. Oh yeah. So one of the reasons that this sort of the stop thing is a little bit easier on a bike like this is because you weigh, I mean, the bike weighs 300 pounds. I mean, I weigh 2/3 what the bike does. Come to think of it, it's maybe not super flattering, but that allows me to control the bike at a stop with my body weight in a way that you can't with a bike that's heavier. Point being, it's a very direct and agile bike. Son of a yellow light. Very direct and agile around town, and yeah, anyone who's looking for a city runabout and is you know, considering a Supermoto, I would definitely recommend it. Might as well talk about the dash. It's not going to take very long to talk about the dash here. A basic LCD dash, excuse me, with bar tack across the top here, and yeah, trip A, trip B, odometer, and a clock in the bottom right, and that's your lot. Speedo in the middle, of course. No gear position indicator, no fuel gauge. Arguably too rudimentary with the instrumentation. Thank the baby Jeebus. Time to go again. Crap. Approaching the final stop sign that we really count in the stop sign challenge, and I feel like I don't know, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. Let's try and get through it, shall we? There we go. Yeah, nice smooth one. Perfect score for the KLX300 SM. I don't think we've had a lot of those. MT-07 maybe, and I don't know, one other bike? I can't remember. Anyway, so now we're cruising along Lover's Lane, and I have to raise my hand again. Scout's honor. I don't know if I'm using that right. I did not put a passenger on the back of the KLX300 SM, so I cannot give you a comprehensive report. What I can tell you is that it is very uncomfortable back there. I tested it myself for what it's worth, and it's not good. I mean, the seat is even thinner back there, and of course it's dead flat, so the passenger doesn't perch up above the rider, so a passenger that you have on the back will be much less likely to see over your shoulder or see anything at all, really. And then there are the foot pegs, which maybe I can show you at a stoplight later or something. They're very rudimentary, and they're yeah, they're bolted onto the frame in a way that they're not even level front to back. Like, I think the right one is ahead of the left one. It's very strange. Point being, passengers were not a priority with the KLX300, and therefore your passenger is unlikely. Oh, I stalled it. I was so cocky with my foot. This stops. Uh-oh. Now it won't start. Come on there, little guy. There we go. Back in action. Point being, your passengers are, unlikely to leave a 5-star review for the KLX300 SM. Into our twisty road section with no station wagons or hybrids ahead of us today. Very exciting. And yeah, we're peeling through these corners. And this type of road, twisty road like this, is an awesome place for a Supermoto. I'm not sure what people's perception is in general, but I feel like sometimes there's a feeling that a dirt bike with street tires on is just going to be kind of spindly and weird and unstable, but what you get is a really direct kind of feeling with the front wheel, and of course the front wheel being smaller means that yeah, the geometry of the front is just really direct to your hands. Nice wide handlebar, lots of feel. Yeah, it's a hoot, provided of course you are not behind a very expensive and heavy car. I will say on the topic of Supermotos on twisty roads that I know some people really have an affinity for fast, flowy roads, like they want to go through sort of like gentle, long curves and carry a lot of speed. And that's not something that a Supermoto in general is particularly good at, especially not a small one like this. I don't know, what I get the biggest kick out of riding on the street are real tight corners. That's, I think, where the most fun can be had, because you can lean on the tires and not be going very fast. And of course, it feels like it's a little bit less risky to be on a road where you can peel through corners at 40 miles an hour and have a good time, rather than go 60 or 80 or something like that. So perhaps the Supermoto speaks more to my personal preference than yours, but in any case, the handling is a real hoot. Okie doke, bottom of the twisty road. Sometimes we pop a little wheelie here. I think that was second gear. Not a lot of power on tap, as we've talked about. If I remember correctly, there's a little jump right here that we hit on the electric bicycle. There's like a weird, yeah, here it is. Sweet. Yeah, that's the fun thing about Supermotos. The bumps in the road. I don't know, like even on an ADV, or like, I mean, I guess I'm silly enough, I might do that on a naked bike or something. But the point is, it's I don't know. It sheds different light on a commute or a ride across town, or something that seems mundane, and I think that's why I like the Supermoto thing. It's cool. All right, approaching this red light, we're going to talk about brakes, which are quite sharp, actually. Yeah, got a little stoppy out of the 300 SM. That's pretty good. Yeah, I've been really impressed with this brake setup. I know it's a light bike, but it's kind of a no-name. It's not particularly exciting equipment. It's rubber lines and a non-adjustable lever. It's not radial pull. It's not fancy. It's not even branded, and yet it's kind of a blast. No ABS available on the KLX300 SM. Or the KLX300 in general, I don't think. Green light already. So again, that sort of goes along with the no fuel gauge, no gear position indicator thing. It's arguably a lack of refinement. Of course, not having ABS on a Supermoto is great fun, but as a safety feature, I wouldn't hate just having ABS and then having a turn off rear ABS button, you know? But then, I don't know, maybe more than 6,000 bucks. Who's to say? So all in all, it's probably clear that I like the KLX300 SM at this point. It's definitely better for tighter environments. You know, if you live in San Francisco or New York City or places where space is at a premium, that's, I think, where you're gonna find the most joy on a bike like this, because that's where it excels, is just being agile and quick around town. Of course, if you live near some place where there's, you know, a few little trails or something, you could get some 17-inch rubber that might have, you know, a little bit more aggressive tread pattern, and you could trundle down some trails and stuff. I mean, it's a dirt bike at its core, right? So it's definitely something to be said for that, as we will find out. About to take our little dirt shortcut here after we nail this footless stop, am I right? Yeah. I had to take my foot off the peg, so maybe not that great, but. So here we go into the dirt. No need to stop and shut off trash control or ABS, because there ain't none of that. Woo! A little too sideways there. Oh, geez. Yeah, the tires don't like this, but like bump wise and whatnot, it's pretty good. The front end is just like the sort of sandy top surface, just like pushing around. But like I said, you could probably solve that with some different rubber. In general, trundling down dirt road right in the KLX300's wheelhouse, because of course, as we have said, it's a dirt bike at heart. Oh man, someone blocked our jump off. What? We gotta pivot around here, kids. There's a lot of activity in the Daily Rider dirt area. I can't get as good a run at this as I wanted to. Sorry, everybody. Point being, yeah, this bike's good for jumping. Not going to bottom it out or anything like that, I wouldn't say. And for those of you curious about the specific differences between the Supermoto and the KLX300 dual sport bike, we just so happen to have one right here that we can talk about. And we can look at them side by side, and you can see the obvious differences of the wheels. But there are some other little things too. We noted the rubber on the foot pegs of the Supermoto. No rubber on the dual sport foot pegs. That's for pretty obvious reasons, because that's what you want in the dirt. There's also this guard on the rear caliper, stuff like that, slight differences between the two models. As for pricing, so $6,000 for the Supermoto, and then it's $5,600, I believe, for the dual sport version. $5,800 if you get this hype camo paint job. So because it's here and the key's in it, we can take it for a spin and see how it feels in comparison. Yep, sounds the same. Crap. Yeah, so this bike feels very at home in the dirt. This is great. Ride train tracks all day. And if that's what you want to do, the KLX Dual Sport would be a good one. Obviously better tires, better wheels, slightly taller seat height, 35.2 inches, I believe. So, yeah, quarter inch, a little more than quarter inch taller. Also no ABS option, I believe. Also not a ton of power. Powertrain's the same. And yeah, I mean, this section right here, nasty, bumpy, dirty, crappy road. Dual sport's great. So, you know, you live in a city where the infrastructure is not great. There are a lot of potholes and stuff. The 21-inch front wheel is going to roll over them a little better. That kind of thing. So yeah, pretty good bike. Let's try a footless stop on it. Same deal. Yeah, nice clean footless stop. All right. Definitely not as connected to the road. It feels like a little spindlier, a little bit less stable on the road. Of course, again, you know, part of that's the tires. And yeah, the mirrors are different. You might notice that. These are more classic dirt bike mirrors, just sort of a basic round shape, not the sort of trapezoidal shape that's a little more common for street bikes. Yeah, in general, also pretty good. See if we can back the dirt bike in. Woo-hoo, yeah, pretty sideways there with the knobby tires. And yeah, now that we're back in the dirt, I mean, this thing is great for this. It's not an advanced dirt bike. It's not a KTM 350 EXC here. Not even in the same strata. It's much closer to being, you know, for the back of an RV, for bopping around town. But it's pretty good at that. I'm fairly impressed. It feels more like a dirt bike than a CRF 250 or something like that. You jumped over the rock that time. All right, we're back to our Supermoto. And I'm remembering there is one other major difference worth talking about, which is the suspension. The Supermoto has shorter suspension, which helps bring the seat height down. But yeah, hopefully that helped illustrate some of the similarities and some of the differences between the two motorcycles. And now we can see if this mamma jamma will do a wheelie. I feel like it will. Let's try second gear. I think we can do it. I think we can do it, people. We just gotta psych ourselves up. Yeah. There we go, third gear. Yeah, look at it go. Fourth gear. Not gonna do a lot of power wheelies, but once you get up near the balance point, pretty fun wheelie bike. All right, last approach to the office. Last couple chances to back it in here. Definitely inspires bad behavior to a certain extent, this motorcycle. Lots of backing it in. We did a wheelie, did a stoppie even this time. That's kind of rare for a daily rider. Now it's time for the U-turn test. So line up along this parking spot line here. Go as slow as we can without putting our feet down. Full lock. Ooh! I mean, that was like, what, 1.5? Yeah. So, you know, 7/8 size motorcycle. 7/8 the turning radius. But yeah, not a bad little illustration of just how, just kind of how small and easy to maneuver this little sucker is. It's pretty cool. And we can take a listen. It does not sound particularly inspiring. It would probably sound a little bit more rad with a pipe on it, but I don't know. Loud, small, single-cylinder engines are not super enjoyable to my ear. Anyway, there you go. KLX300 Supermoto. I think we had fun. That was a good time. Just need to pull up Instagram here, or my list of Instagram questions, and we'll jump through some of your queries specifically. Okie dokie. The sun comes out, and we are ready for Instagram questions. We'll start with VVRXLV, who asks, how does it compare to the non-SM KLX300, and which would you rather have? So, we just got through with that little comparison. Hopefully that was helpful. I think it's probably pretty clear at this point that I would take the Supermoto. I mean, I live in a city, and I don't know. I like the idea of taking it to a kart track or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think that there's no doubt really that the KLX300 non-SM that we tried is a little bit more versatile, really, because it doesn't give up a whole lot of actual capability on the road aside from direct feel and little bit better traction, but you can go more places on it. So yeah, I would have an SM because I like the SM thing. You're in good shape in either one, frankly. Next question is from Full Monty Rides, who says, why spend more money for this than, say, an MT-03? Is there any advantage over the MT-03, or is it just the Supermoto appeal? This is a good question, and it got us talking in the office the other day, and one of my colleagues said, yeah, like, what about a Z400? And so we looked it up, and a Z400, I believe you can get for $1,000 cheaper than this KLX300 SM, and it has ABS, and it has 2 cylinders, and the seat height's lower, and you can go 100 miles an hour if you want to. You take it to a track day if you're new to that kind of thing. It's in a lot of ways, as a street bike, just so much more capable and maybe even more approachable, and I mean it offers so much more. So whether it's a Z400 or an MT-03, as Full Monty Rides is suggesting, yeah, there isn't, you know, if you want a street bike, a bike like that is going to deliver just as much, if not more, and it's less money for some reason. So that's an astute question, and yeah, thanks for writing it in. Micelle 88, I'm not sure, asks, how many beer cans can you fit in that back pouch? So yeah, this little pouch here has the toolkit in it, so you might be able to, you know what, I don't actually, I think, bear with me, I think we got some beer cans in here. An IPA, an amber ale. All right, so here we go. One can of beer. 1 can of beer, definitely doable. 2 cans of beer. I don't know. Maybe. I think if you took the toolkit out, you could maybe do that. Yeah, that basically fits. Let me see here. Yeah, all right, there you go. 2 cans of beer in the back pouch. Hopefully that helps. I like that question. Next question is from Renato Zane 3395, who asks, any advantage of the KLX over the Versys X300 as a daily commuter? Good question, and no, not really. And that goes back to the the question about other options. I mean, there are just so many other options that you could get instead of this. Excuse me, for about the same amount of money. And yeah, Versys X300 is like probably a little bit less capable off-road than this bike, just because this bike is so small and has, you know, such long travel suspension, that kind of thing. But the Versys X, it trundles off-road just fine, and it'll go cruise down the highway. It's got wind protection, got better options for factory luggage, that kind of thing. So yeah, realistically, there isn't a lot that this bike offers except for the sort of the hooligan appeal and the actual dirt bike architecture. Next question is from Ringo Mack, who asks, does it need suspension mods? This is kind of a loaded question, right? Because it depends how good you are at riding a motorcycle, how much you care, how heavy you are, that kind of thing. But no, in general, I don't think so. It is much more planted than a lot of other motorcycles in the category. I mean, like Honda's CRF 300 is very soft. I know that's not a Supermoto, but yeah, it's a soft machine, and that's very common. The KLX 300, I think, feels set up pretty well. The non-SM one that we rode in the dirt there does have softer springs and longer travel suspension. This one's a little bit shorter and a little bit stiffer springs, I believe. So yeah, this one especially, I find it pretty good for the street, and yeah, I would even take it to a little track day at a car track or something like that, no problem. Next question from Sean Tom Greenberg, who asks the question on so many people's minds, obviously looking at the list of questions that I got on Instagram, is it coming for the DRZ 400 SM? And in some ways it is, because it's a new bike with a warranty and it's a factory option for a Supermoto, and that's awesome. But in a lot of ways it's not, just because it is quite a bit slower and smaller, in a way that I feel like people who like the DRZ 400 appreciate that it sort of like has enough muscle to keep you entertained when you're in that Supermoto mindset. And this is a great bike. It's fun to ride, but it is not, it's not going to rip wheelies unless you really, really ask for it. And I do think that that's a piece of, DRZ 400 does feel bigger and faster in some ways that I think people are going to gravitate to still, even now with a new option. It would be awesome to see more manufacturers dive into this. It'd be cool to have a Japanese 450 Supermoto for, you know, $5,000 or $5,500, but I don't know what the spreadsheets look like at the companies, so maybe that's not possible. But I think this will safely occupy a slightly different category than the DRZ 400SM for now. Last question, not really a question so much as just a comment. This is from the driver's perspective, who says, there's always room for another low maintenance factory SM. Been to the kart track 4 times in the last 6 weeks. Can't afford that on a sport bike. So that sort of leans into the thing I was talking about earlier about, yeah, you could take a Z400 to a track day, and you could take a Z400 to a track day at a kart track. Frankly, that would be fine. But this bike is sort of designed to ride around on a go-kart track, and there are lots of places where you can go for $25-40, rip around, lean over, learn some skills, back it in, do so in a safe environment, and you don't spend $200-300 like you might at a full-size track day. So yeah, I appreciate the driver's perspective, having that good perspective on motorcycles. Again, thanks so much for the questions. As always, really appreciate it. Bear with me here. We'll put this sucker on the Daily Rider leaderboard, and we will be all wrapped up. All right,
everybody. Here we are in the RevZilla West shop. See Harley-Davidson Pan America back there, undergoing some testing. And yeah, some other bikes around here. More to the point, Daily Rider leaderboard. We got the Kawasaki KLX300 Supermoto here, ready to go on the board. As usual, friendly reminder of what's up there. BMW GS at the top, Multistrada V4, Kawasaki Versys. That's the podium these days. Further down, you get some naked bikes, MT-07, Street Triple, Street Fighter, FTR. Yeah, and then the rest of some older bikes down here. The Kawasaki KLX300 Supermoto is a fun bike in the right circumstances. It does give up some capability and some features, right? We talked about some of the things that it doesn't have on the dash. It doesn't have ABS, doesn't have a ton of range, that kind of thing. So this is a tricky one because it's going to depend a lot on your, you know, how you feel about what your riding environment, what you want to do. So Yamaha MT-03, we had someone ask about that bike there, and I suggested that realistically you're getting more for that bike. You know, more capability, not really giving up much, and I would stand by that. So probably below that, let's see here. So my personal KTM Supermoto, I mean, my KTM Supermoto does not have ABS. It's got a rip-roaring engine. So I mean, I would definitely rather ride my KTM Supermoto to work than the KLX300 SM. My bike's not as approachable though. This is a tough one, but this is the neck of the woods that we're working in though. Okay, all right. I made my decision. This is where it's gonna go. It's gonna go down here. The Daytona 765 Moto 2, the KLX is more comfortable than that bike, no question. It's more approachable, it's easier to ride, it's cheaper, all that stuff. But the Daytona 765 Moto 2 and the Triumph's Rocket 3, they're too luxurious and nice. You know, realistically, if a Rocket 3 is sitting next to the KLX300 SM in the garage, I'm probably gonna take the Rocket 3 most days just because, man, is it fun. And I don't live in Manhattan or San Francisco or, you know, those dense urban areas like we were talking about. So, you know, part of that's me. I'm gonna put it down here. No ABS, same as my bike. It's a lot of similarities. Oh geez, I screwed up the magnets. A lot of similarities with my personal KTM 950 Supermoto, except that my 950 is bigger, burlier, more fun, more exotic, and basically doesn't give up any options to the KLX because despite being a new bike, doesn't have that many features. So there you go. That's probably farther down than you were expecting for that bike, but I think we got to be realistic about its actual capability. Fun, cool little machine, but at the end of the day, there are plenty of bikes that I'd rather take to work, I think. So there you have it, another bike on the leaderboard. I hope you enjoyed yourself as usual, and with any luck, you learned a thing or two. I do hope I'll see you next time on Daily Rider.
Oh, a dog is pissed off at me. The owner's very embarrassed. Classic. Behind a very expensive and heavy car, about which the person driving probably does not care that much about handling. Trying to do a thing here, Mercedes driver. We had a clear road. Jeez.